Hello and welcome to the Hornet Talk podcast. This is the first pre-recorded episodes of the podcast. This would be episode 22, but it is episode 1 of the pre-records. Don't forget, later on this week, you will also be getting the Hornet Talk podcast unfiltered, which is coming to you this Thursday at 8 p.m. on Twitter Spaces. Before we start the introductions and our topic overviews, just a mention of our partnership with those at Together 32. Together 32 is a relaxed space where you can talk, listen, or simply just be there. There's no pressure to share. There's no expectations. It's just about understanding, connection, and community for those who have been affected by suicide loss and are grieving. So if you are struggling, Together 32 will be there for you. The next meeting is next month on the third Thursday. So make sure if you are struggling to reach out to them and they will signpost you to where you should go for the best support. So thank you for your support on that one. And I'm going to introduce my co-hosting team for the evening on this pretty historic moment for the Hornet Talk podcast. So this evening we have Liam Brenton, George Frakish, and Harry Phillips. So good evening, Liam. How are you?
Good evening, Caden. I'm doing very well. It's a new era here, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Very, very looking forward to it.
Good to hear. Also introducing Harry Phillips for his first appearance on the YouTube channel. So good evening, Harry. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for this new era of the Hornet Talk podcast.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be an interesting era for us. Good evening, George. How are
you? A good new era, and just can't wait to get started on obviously the new YouTube page, which obviously we will be posting on a lot more now.
Yes, so all of our pre-recorded episodes will be going onto the YouTube channel. They'll also be going onto Spotify, as some people will be listening to as of now, and also they'll be going up on X. So stay tuned with all things the Hornet Talk podcast, and we hope to bring you the best content possible with very, very frequent content. So make sure to keep your eye out for that. Just an overview of tonight's topics. So we're going to start off with a review of our game against Derby County. We're then going to preview today's game against Ipswich Town. We're then going to be talking about Kieran Go and his return to goal-scoring form. What is the perfect centre-back pairing at Watford? And we're going to ask the question, could pushing a fullback into the midfield when the opposition are breaking be an answer to some of our midfield struggles? Then, one of our favourite things at the Hornet Talk podcast, a lovely player battle. Stephen and Fooney versus Mark Bowler. We'll be getting the team's thoughts on that. Iran Kunda is back. How influential can he be to excel us to the playoffs this season? And our main topic of the evening is about Edward Steele's opening 2 games and Ed Steele's attitudes towards the press. So starting off then with a review of our game against Derby County. So starting off with you, Liam, how did you think we were against Derby County?
Yeah, for me, I thought it was a really, really solid performance against a strong Derby side. I think we completely outclassed them from start to finish. And Fooney, quality once again. Kayembe, solid, really happy with him. Kieran Gunn and Dunby are both scoring, both strikers that haven't had a goal in a while, so I'm really, really happy for them. Disappointing to see Barr coming off after coming on. That made me sad because, you know, he's a brilliant player and he must have felt something. And likely, as Ed still said, he's probably not going to be available for tomorrow's game. Mama, again, another knock. I'm disappointed. If he's out for a long term, it will be a big issue. He's a really influential player for us, and I think it's a big, big blow if we lose him. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who replaces them. We'll get into that at Ipswich, but I think it's going to be difficult to who can replace Mama, given the firepower that he has and the quality that he has. So yeah, I think we played really, really well. And Funi, brilliant. Kayembe, good performance. Kumgard and Dumbia, good to have him back in the goals. And I do think Bowler came on and got an assist, which I love to see because I really like Mark Bowler.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a really positive, controlled performance against what has been a very good Derby side this season. So I was really, really impressed with our composure that we saw. Just a couple of standouts for me, really. Saba Gogliachidze, James Abankwa, Stephen Mfuni, and Jeremy Ngakia. I thought all four were absolutely fantastic. And I want to ask you about a player that played against Derby, and he's definitely split opinion from that Derby game. Edo Kayembe, what did you think of his performance against Derby?
Yeah, I thought, to be fair, I did think he was pretty solid. I thought he made an impact. He had a few shots. He's that player that I think plays better when we're playing him further forward instead of a deeper role, because he needs to play there. Because when we see him play deeper, he likes a tendency to ball watch and just sit back and, well, not sit back. He likes to go on forward runs. So again, he definitely needs to play higher up the pitch. I don't think he was incredible, but I think that's one of the best games he's had in a while, bar Blackburn. So yeah, I was really impressed with performance. And I think he got a match rating of 7.6 on FotMob, I think he did. So yeah, I thought he played really, really well.
Well, look, for me, I wasn't impressed by him at all. I thought he was really, really poor. And I must have been watching a completely different game to half of our fan base, quite clearly. Because everyone's saying, oh, he was fantastic. He was brilliant. I really don't think he was. There was one or two things that I thought he did okay. But on the whole, I don't think he was very good at all. Once again, very, very weak, poor tackler. And I know we're going to see a lot more of him based on Ed Steele's comments about him. But I really, really don't want to see Kayembe be a massive mainstayer in the team. So I'm hoping that Bove can get to full fitness as quickly as possible, so we don't really have to deal with Kayembe. Before I move on to Harry and George, Liam, on the refereeing performance, what did you think of David Webb against Derby? Because he's definitely caused a lot of anger with the Watford fans, purely based on the fact that Matt Clark should, by the letter of the law, been given a red card, and he wasn't. What did you make of his refereeing performance?
Yeah, I don't think it was incredible, not going to lie to you. I mean, I didn't see all the match because I was at the Huddersfield game, but yeah, I do think, again, maybe we should have had a penalty. I know there was a covering defender, but at the letter of the law, it is a penalty, so I was surprised we didn't get a penalty. And then red card, second yellow, I do think definitely it was a bad tackle and should have been a second yellow, but yeah, it's just the way we're going to have to stick with it. We got the win, so it didn't really matter. We won 2-0, so I can fault him because I don't think he was that good of a referee. But then again, we won 2-0, so the job was done.
Well, yeah, it's all about getting the job done, but it has to have been one of the worst refereeing performances I've seen in a very, very long time. They shouldn't have just got one red card. I thought Ajimang should have been sent off. He didn't even get a yellow. Some of the challenges that Ajimang was putting in on some of our players was wrong, and the ref didn't pull up on it. It was like the referee was letting them get away with murder. It was awful, an awful performance. And I hope that we won't get as bad of a referee today against Ipswich, but I really think we will. Harry, what did you think of our game against Derby County?
I thought it was a brilliant performance. You know, we were on the front foot for the whole game. Like, under Harvey Grazia, we would score a goal and sit back instantly. What I liked about the game on Saturday is that as soon as we scored that first goal, we didn't just drop back and let them pass the ball around. We kept trying to attack, and that is key to us getting more goals and eventually more points, which we did today, which we did on Saturday. And I'm glad that even though with the adversity of the referee, we managed to follow through with a 2-0 victory against a very, very good Derby County side. It was their first away loss in 11 games, which is phenomenal. And the first time they did not score in 22 games. So we kept a clean sheet against a very, very good John Eustace side. So I'm very, very happy with our performance.
And who was your standout from that game?
I mean, there was a few players who stood out to me. I thought the first one was James Abankwah. I think that was his best performance all season. He kept Ajimang super, super quiet, who was a prolific goal scorer in this division. I thought, after the game, he must have found him in his pocket because he did not do a thing apart from throw elbows at our centre-backs. And another player would be Stefan Mfuni. We have thrown him into that left-back position, and straight away he has been phenomenal. And Mark Bowler, I feel so bad for him because he's probably up there for players of the season, and he's just been thrown aside by an 18-year-old Manchester City Academy graduate because he is insane. He could one day play for England. I'm not even kidding. He's better than Elaine. I don't think that's really a debate anymore, and I'm glad that we have him for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and Mfuni is such a talented player, and the fact that he has been cast aside, he casted aside Mark Bowler, just proves his quality. What did you think of the refereeing performance from David Webb?
Well, I thought it was embarrassing, the refereeing performance. That was our first win in, I think it was 13 years of him as a referee, or 11 years and 13 games time, something ridiculous like that. Last time we won with him as a referee was in 2014 against Rotherham 2-0, which is madness. And so he was atrocious. We should have got a penalty. They should have had 1, maybe 2 red cards. It was a joke. But again, as I said on the just before, with that adversity, we still won 2-0, and that's important. And that shows the heart our team has. Most other teams, they're getting that bad of calls, and we still managed to win. It's a sign of a good team, and hopefully for the next 13 games, that'll push us to the playoff places.
Yeah. George, what did you think of our game against Derby County, and who was your standout player?
Well, against Derby, I thought we played absolutely brilliantly, to be honest. Like, there weren't many faults at all from our team. And I know Caden's going to hate me for this, but I personally believe that Edo Kayeme was by far the best player on that pitch, to be honest, because the amount of shots that he took. Yes, obviously he didn't have the proper finishing that he maybe should have, but he was still utterly brilliant, to be honest. And same with Stefan Mfuni, considering he's only 18 a couple of weeks ago, and he just knocked Mark Bowler out of the way to come in at that position, which we will talk later on in the show about.
Right, and what did you think of the refereeing performance against Derby from David Webb?
Well, in my opinion, David Webb was absolutely atrocious because we could have had at least 2 pens, if not. Maybe we should have had 1, maybe we should have had 2, but without a doubt we should have had 1. But yeah, it was mad because the amount of tackles flying in from the Derby County players, I can't even count it on 2 hands. I forgot what player it was, but he should have been sent off for a tackle on, I think it was Chakvadat Seabenwoods breaking away on the counter.
I think you might be referring to Clark.
Yes, I think it is that player. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it just sums it up, doesn't it? The refereeing performance was poor, and the refereeing performances in the Championship as a whole has been poor for a long, long while. Our next topic of the evening is a preview of our game today against Ipswich Town. And I'm going to pass over to the preview man, Liam. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much, Caden. Now, in terms of points separating the two sides, Ipswich are currently fourth, as we know, on 54, and we sit 6 points behind them in ninth place on 49. Now, I do think this would have been a close game for us if Wrexham hadn't come back from... a crucial game for us if Wrexham hadn't come behind from 3-2 down to win 5-3, because we would have been 1 point outside the playoffs, but still 3 points outside the playoffs. I do think this game has come at the right time, given that we've just won our last match at home. So I do think it's a very important game to get the winning streak and keep it going. Now, just a quick couple of questions for you lads before I go into predicted lineups then. Caden, how narrow do you think the game's going to be? And do you think it'll be really, really tight between us both?
Look, I don't think it's going to be a tight game. I think it'll be really open and it'll be really high scoring. It'll be really high scoring. Ipswich have obviously come off the back of a 5-3 loss to Wrexham. We obviously won 2-0 to Derby. So it can go one of two ways. It can be really open and be really entertaining, or it's going to be really boring and a smashing by either team. So I think it's a really difficult game to kind of guess. But I think it'll be a really, really open game because both teams are going to want to go at each other from minute one, considering both teams are in the midst of a playoff battle.
No, yeah, 100%. I completely agree with you. I think this is a crucial game for us. I've gone 2-2. I think it'll be a close match. I do think that there'll be goals in it. And yeah, I think a point will be good for us here, given how good Ipswich are, and they'll be looking to bounce back following their defeat to Wrexham. Now, Harry, just on a player then, Nesteri Irankunda obviously played really brightly at the weekend. Do you think he has to start, given Mama and Bar's injuries?
Yeah, he's a must start. His performance was a revelation for our side. Like the last 3 games, we've missed that sort of player who can go from defending to attacking in such a quick space of time. He is ridiculously fast, and he scares championship defensives with that pace. And I'm looking forward to seeing him play against an Ipswich side on a pitch which is bigger than the last time we played against them at their ground. And he's going to have more space to attack. And I'm looking forward to see him attack this vulnerable Ipswich side, which we saw. They let 5 goals into Wrexham. Wrexham's a good team. They're not 5 goals let in team. And hopefully, Irankunda can hurt this Ipswich side and guide Watford to victory.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really think he's an influential player. When we signed him, I was really, really excited. He had a good start to the season, then had a bit of a drop-off. But now I think this is his perfect chance to prove himself, and I do think he was very, very good. He got unlucky with that one-on-one because it was a great save. Now, George, final question before we go into predicted lineups. Who should replace Off-Main Mama in the starting 11 today?
Well, that's a brilliant question. I think if Nesteri Irankunda isn't going to start, it definitely has to be him, because the amount of pace that he brings, I mean, yes, it's obviously a big player we are missing out on, but it's still a very good reinforcement. And I'm just having a look at our squad now, maybe even Tom Ince, and because when Ince has been playing, he's not even been that bad, to be fair to him. So either Nesteri Irankunda to start, or Tom Ince over Otman Marma, as he has been injured. Same with Quadro Bar.
No, 100%. I completely agree with you. I think Nesteri, he's a brilliant player on his day. He's got the pace. He can take on his man, as we saw with Bar last season. Like, I think there was a chance earlier in the game where He just ran. He literally, no one could catch up to him. He was on the counter and he just ran. He was so quick, but no one could catch up to him that we couldn't create an opportunity. So, yeah. Now, quickly, before we move on to our next topic, predicted lineups then. I'll take you through mine and then I'll go to Harry, George, and then Caden. So, in goal, I have gone for Egil Selvik. Now, that's self-explanatory. Me and Caden say it every week on the preview. Baxter's not good enough for this level, so I think he has to start. Centre-back pairing then. This was a tough one for me to call. However, I do think Pollock should come back in for Gogliachidze. I do think Pollock's our best defender when you look at things. I really do think that he has to start alongside Abankwah. And Abankwah's played really well recently. He's a really, really solid player, and I'm really, really happy with him. Fullbacks then. This is where it gets difficult. Now, I think Mfuni played really, really well at the weekend at left back. So for me, I would keep Mfuni there. Maybe allowing Mfuni to go into central defence in the second half and bringing Bowler on, because I like Bowler. He's a really good player, and I think it's really hard to keep him out of the team when he's done so well. At right back, I'm going to stick with Jeremy Ngakia. I thought he did have a really good game at the weekend, and I do think it's the right option to keep him there. Defensive midfield, self-explanatory. They've been partnering each other for the past 2 games, and that is Nampalius Mendy and Imran Louza. I think they have to play together. I don't think Ekwar's ready yet, and I don't think Bove is quite ready yet to play. So it has to be those two to play in the midfield together. As we saw, Bove didn't get any minutes this weekend. So for me, definitely has to start in the midfield. Now, attack's where it get interesting because of injuries. So on the left, George, I agree with you. I do think that Tom Ince will probably start there, just given his experience and his ability to track back. I think he's our only option on that side. In the cam, I think Georgie played really well when he came on Saturday. I do think he made a big impact. His forward runs. He doesn't have the end product, but he adds quality to the side, and I do think he adds a lot of energy to the side. So I put him in the cam role, and then put Iran Kunda on the right-hand side because he's just an influential player and he can fill the void that we have with Mama. So I do think. And then up top, it's tough because both strikers scored at the weekend, and I like both of them. So I'm going to have to go for Kiramgard on this occasion. I think Kiramgard should start at the weekend. I think he had one of his better games this weekend. And a stat for you, which I saw from Watford FC Zach, so credit to that. All of Kiramgard's goals have been from first touches. So again, he doesn't make the biggest impact, but he scores goals, and that's what we need a striker to do. So for me, I think he has a physical presence, like I say, and yeah, I think he has to start this weekend. Now, going to Harry then, predicted lineup-wise, who do you think should be in your starting 11?
Well, in goal is Mr. Obvious, Egil Selvik. He is our only goalkeeper who could possibly start. Again, Baxter's not good enough for the championship. He's a backup goalkeeper. You don't really need much from him. Then going to the back line, at right back, Mr. Consistent, Jeremy Ngakia. He's always having a good game. Sometimes he makes little mistakes that sometimes cost goals, but otherwise he is phenomenal. Then moving on to the centre backs, we've got Pollock and Abankwah. I know Gogliachidze had a good performance, but I think Pollock could do everything that Gogliachidze did and more. He's more a leader. He can speak to other players, and it allows Louza not to be such more of a captain, but more of doing his own thing. And Abankwah, again, phenomenal performance. Left back, very, very tricky, but I'm going to go with Stefan Mfuni. He's been amazing the last 2 games. There is no reason for him to be taken out of our side, and I'm so grateful for Manchester City for giving us him. Then in defensive midfield, I'm going to go with Napalis, Mendy and Louza. I think they're becoming our little pair in the midfield, and they have been great for us. Napalis, Mendy, ever since coming in after Javi Grazia's sacking, has been phenomenal. He runs to that ball. He allows us to calm down, and similar to Elaine, who calmed us down. I think that's a good comparison. And then Louza's phenomenal. Then this is where it gets tricky, as Liam said. On the right, I'm going to go with Iran Kunda. He played great against Derby, and I think he has to be in this starting lineup. In the middle, tricky. Even though Kayembe had a good 7 or 8 out of 10 performance, I'm going to go with Shakva Tadze. I want to see him in the middle, and I think he can hurt this vulnerable Ipswich defence. Now, on the left, I know Tom Ince would be the obvious choice, but I would like to see something a little bit different. I would like to see Mark Bowler playing in a more attacking position. I feel like he's unfortunate to be out this side. And so I'm hoping that maybe we can try him out in a different position and see if he's even more prolific, as well as it gives us a little bit more backup on defence. And Mfuni and Bowler could do overlapping wingers, which I think would be an interesting dynamic to try out, especially against an Ipswich side who have great wingers. And so even if it doesn't work out, they can both drop in and figure out who's going up. And then at centre forward, tough. They both scored on the weekend, but I'm going to go with Mamadou Doumbia. I feel like when he came on, he was more impressive. He was better controlling the ball, bigger presence. I felt like the Derby defence were more worried about Doumbia on the pitch than Kieran. And although Kieran got his goal, which is great, that's what centre forwards are paid to do. Otherwise, I don't think he did that much. That was good, which is normal for him. And so I'd love to see Doumbia play up front for us on Tuesday, tomorrow, today, whatever.
I'm really liking your predicted lineup, to be fair. I really like the idea of Bowler on the left. I wouldn't have thought of that. But then again, he does add a lot of quality attacking. I definitely think he's a better attacking than defensively. Now, moving swiftly on, because I know we've got a lot to get through this evening. So going to George's predicted 11. Fire away, George.
Okay, so quickly, I will obviously start Egil Selvik in goal. And as my back four, I will play Stefan Mfuni and Jeremy Ngakia on as the fullbacks, as they've been top class when they have been playing, to be fair. And as a centre-back, I've mixed up a bit from Saturday. I will be playing James Abankwah and Matty Pollock, because Pollock's just that very experienced head, you could say, in the Championship, as he has been playing, I think, a couple years of constant football now. So that's exactly what we need in a tough test against Ipswich tomorrow. And I will be playing a 4-2-3-1 formation, as we have been recently. And then as my two holding midfielders, as we have been, I will be starting Nampalys Mendy and Imran Louza, because you just can't go wrong with them. And then as in my 10 position, I'll be playing Edo Kayembe. I know Caden's loving that right now, but I think he's not much. You can't go wrong with him, to be fair, because from Saturday he's earned his place in the squad because he didn't really do that much wrong. So on the wing, the controversial thing. So on the right, I will be playing Nestri Irankunda, but on the left, I will be playing Georgi Chakradze, because as we saw, both of them were just outstanding when they were playing on Saturday. And finally, up top, I will be starting Mamadou Doumbia, because when he did come off the bench and obviously get the winner, he looked like the proper centre forward that we did need. And he's not the one we've been crying out for, but he can do more than we've got from Luca Kierengard.
Thank you for that, George. Now, quickly, before we move on to our next topic, Caden, starting 11 wise, I do think you'll disagree with George a lot, given that he said Edo Kayembe, but as I said, George, fire away.
Yeah. There's two 11s that I think could be potential. The one that I would pick is completely different to what I think Ed will go with. So I'll run you through both very, very quickly. Personally, for me, I would go with Selvik in goal, Mfuni and Ngakia as the fullbacks, with Abankwah and Pollock as the centre backs. A midfield three of Nampalys Mendy, Imran Louza, Georgi Chakradze. In the 10, Nestri Irankunda, and then Doumbia and LK9 up front. However, I do think that Ed will not pick that 11, and I think this will be the 11 that Ed more or less picks. It will be Selvik, Ngakia, Abankwah, Goglia Chidzi, and Mfuni, Mendy, Louza, Irankunda, Chakradze, Ince, and Kieran. I think that will be what Ed goes with. But I would potentially be starting Kierkegaard and Dumbia together, because I think that what's great about them is they complement each other so well. Whatever Dumbia does well, it always then reflects well on Kierango. So I definitely want to see that dynamic tomorrow night. But I think Ed will stick with the sole striker.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Caden. Now I'll pass back over to you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Liam, for that. On to our next topic, actually, talking about Kierango and his return to goal-scoring form. Back to you, Liam. What have you thought about Kierango over the last 2 games? Obviously, he had a massive impact against Preston. His shot turning into a goalkeeper own goal, and then a goal against Derby. What have you thought of him recently, considering what was a drought in form?
Yeah, again, it's tough. I mean, I do think he didn't play that well against Preston. I suppose I did say that probably should have gone down as his goal. I think it's a bit harsh because he did get a flick on it. But then again, I don't think he played that well in that match. Then again, on Saturday, didn't do that much, but again, scored. And that's what a goal scorer does. I'm happy for him. Think probably goal scoring wise, he's our best striker. Yes, Dumbia does score goals, but he doesn't score as many for me. All of Kieran's goals, like I said, have been from first touches. So it shows what little he does in a match, but he can score goals. And that's what we need a striker to do. So for me, it's not a problem that, no, he's not an amazing number 9, but he scores goals. And that's what we need him to do. So for me, I think he's the right option over Dumbia. His hold-up play needs to be a lot better. I do think Dumbia's better in that sense. But yeah, I definitely think that Kieran's been better in the last 2 games. And it's interesting to see whether he'll be better against Ipswich with such a physical team and such a good side. Will he live up to the potential and play really well? We'll have to see in today's match, but I just think it's going to be really tough for him to get in the game. But yeah, I do think he's played well past 2 games, and you have to give him credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I have been a long criticiser of Luca. And over the last 2 games, I thought he's played really, really well. I thought he was okay against Preston, but his strongest game was against Derby. My only complaint, and I say every time I see Kieran go, the only thing I want him to do now is press a bit more. It's all well and good you scoring the goals, but you need to press. I know he won't have the pace, but you need to kind of press a little bit like Dumbia and put yourself around a bit and try and float. Maybe he can't float, and maybe I'll be the guy that says, "Yep, I was wrong about that. I'll hold my hands up." But I definitely think he needs to be a bit more like Dumbia, and he's not just in one position. He's going across to the wings, trying to get a ball across if he can do that. So that's the only thing, and he needs to be a bit more of a tenacious presser. But the goals will come. The goals will come when he plays. But yeah, some things need to be improved upon with him. Harry, what are your thoughts on Kerem Go in the last 2 games and his return to goal scoring form?
I'm glad for him, and it's been a rough patch for him the last couple games, and ever since Ed Steele's come in, he seems to be playing a little bit better. I know the Preston game, again, it was probably one of his average performances, not his worst by any means, but he managed to help create one of the second goal, which I'm happy for him. And then last game, obviously, hitting that ball super hard, straight at the goalkeeper, Troy Deeney style, managed to work. And as Liam said, his first touch has been always goal. So as soon as he takes a touch, we know he isn't scoring. And this is going to be a far-fetched comparison, and it's probably make a few people giggle, but Haaland takes maybe 5 to 10 touches in most matches, and he manages to get 1, 2, even 3 goals. And I think that's similar to Luke and Kieran. He's not a centre forward who's going to be pressing and running the whole time like Mamadou Doumbia. He's someone who, at the right place at the right time, can get a goal, similar to Rajovic, but I think he's slightly better in that aspect. And I'm very, very happy that he's got his goal, and hopefully that means many more for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think that's 8 goals for Kiramgo now. I think is it 8 or 9? Yeah, as I said, the goals will come if we do what we need to do with him and don't waste him. He is not the player to head the ball. Bring it down to feet, as we've seen by the statistics. All of his goals have come by first touches. So bring it down to his feet, let him control it in the box, and let him whip one rather than constantly trying to put the ball in the air and relying on a header purely based on his height. George, what are your thoughts on Kiramgo's return to goal scoring form, and how do you think he can influence us for the rest of the season as we go on a playoff charge?
Well, I think fair play to him for obviously coming back to goal scoring, because he's been quite good in the last 2 games, you could say, under Ed still. And I do also believe that because we've seen in training videos from the training ground that he actually has scored with his, he actually has scored some decent goals, but we're not seeing that on the real pitch. So a thing that I want him to do towards the latter end of the season, or get him to do, is to implement them sort of shots into his game. I know that's not the question, but I do want him to change what sort of goals that he does score. Yes, he's scoring, but he's not scoring as many as we sort of need him to if we want to be chasing towards the playoffs this season.
Yeah, I mean, as he is going to play a crucial role into what we do for the rest of the season. But as I said, play the ball into his feet, special things will happen. Moving on to our next topic of the evening, and we're going to go back to the back four, and we're going to talk about the centre-back pairing. Now, there's been many alterations of the centre-backs this season. We've seen Elaine and Pollock, Caben and Pollock, Abankwah and Gogliachidze, Pollock and Gogliachidze. We've seen loads of different pairings. And who would be your number one pairing going forward for the rest of the season? Liam, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, it's tough for me to pick. I really think it's a really, really hard choice. For me, I think it has to be Matty Pollock and James Abankwah. I think Pollock is one of our most consistent players. 70% of aerial duels won, 6 duels won per match, and 3 recoveries per match. I think he's a proper English centre-back who's no nonsense and gets rid of the ball straight away and just tackles. He's not afraid to put a tackle in. I think he's really perfect partner Abankwah. And when I'm thinking about Abankwah, I think he's been really good since his return to the side. On Saturday, 7 recoveries, 7 clearances, 5 out of 8 duels won, 4 tackles. I mean, he made a real difference to keeping our clean sheet. And I do think he is a brick wall at the back recently. And I love him for bits. And I really want us to sign him in the summer. I think he's the player that we've been missing in the defence centrally since Max Elaine's recall to Manchester City. Obviously, in Fooney, yes. But I do think he works better in the left back role. So for me, it has to be Matty Pollock and James Abankwah.
Yeah, well, I think you know who's going to be in my centre back pairing because of the amount I hype the man up. Matty Pollock is in that pairing, and I would go with James Abankwah. They complement each other so well. You've got the pace of Abankwah compared to the no-nonsense of Matty Pollock. Put the two together, you get a really solid centre-back pairing, and I hope that going into next season, we do not lose James Abankwah. He is so important to our back line that it would be catastrophic to see him leave the club and go back to Udinese. But I think it's a pretty obvious centre-back pairing. But Harry, what would be your perfect centre-back pairing for the rest of the season?
I mean, I'm in agreement with both of you guys so far. I mean, it has to be Pollock and Abankwah. It really depends on where Stefan Funi plays. If Stefan Funi's at left back, it's Pollock and Abankwah. If he moves into the centre back position, it gets a bit more difficult. I think Pollock has to be there. He's been immense all season. And Abankwah in the last few games has been great. And again, agreeing with you, Caden, he cannot go back to Udinese. He needs to stay here. He is fantastic. I'd also like to make the point that I'm really glad with all of our centre-back options. Even though Pollock's been out, the last game against Derby, we managed to throw in Gogla Chitse in there. We could have thrown in Foremost Mendy. You know, we're not running out of options that some fans thought we could have. And I'm glad that we have those backups, and it shows how strong our squad is. And it's important to have that when you're trying to fight for playoffs and hopefully promotion.
Well, just on the squad, would I say that we've got a really, really strong squad? No. Would I say we've got a strong squad? Relatively. We've got a lot of options, but the squad quality declines when certain players are still knocking about the club. I know he's not playing for us and he's injured, but we've still got Bachmann on the payroll. We've still got Kayembe in the starting 11. We've got Petrus, who can't get a game. Foremost Mendy, who gets left out every single game. Duomo, who doesn't play. How long have I called for him to play? And he doesn't. He would do such a good job compared to Kayembe. And he just doesn't play. And then you've got all the academy players that aren't playing. You've got choices. You've got... I know it's the championship and I know it's sometimes a struggle for young players, but you've got the likes of Amin Nabizada or Leo Ramirez Espan. You've got players there who can probably do a job. But it's a weird one. I think we've got a strong squad, but I don't think it's it's in the top three for squads in this league.
But do you not think that over the last seasons in the Championship that this is our strongest squad since we've been relegated?
In the Championship, yes, but this season, is it the strongest squad in the whole of the Championship?
No.
Is it top 5? Yes.
John Eustace said it was.
No.
John Eustace said it was. Caden, you're on mute.
Well, I think it's an over-evaluation by John Eustace. I don't think we're a top 3 side for our squad, to be honest. George, what do you think? One, who's our best centre-back pairing, but also, is our squad really that great? And are we top 5, top 3, or are we top 10 potentially?
Well, I'll start off with that second question. I do believe that we are a top 10 team, because I think if we do carry on the trajectory that we are currently riding, I think that we will easily get top 10, because this back four that we have is immense when they're playing at their best. They're like prime Barcelona. But yeah, I think my ideal centre-back pairing, well, I'll just go through my ideal back four, to be honest, because that correlates to my whole thought process. So at right back, I will be playing Jeremy Ngakia. On the left, I will be playing Mark Bowler when he is fully fit. Then as my two centre-backs, I'll be playing Matty Pollock and Stefan Funny, just because they are the two best centre-backs that we do have at the club.
So you would have a centre-back pairing of Mfuni and Pollock, yeah?
Correct, yeah.
It's an option. It's an option. I just prefer Abankwah based on strength. Really, Abankwah is insanely strong and shifts people like it's no tomorrow. So I would go with the Banquet. I see your thought process with Mfuni, but I think Mfuni, he can play obviously centre back and left back. I want to probably see him more at left back than I do centre back, but I really do want to see Mark Boller. So it's a really difficult situation. But I also think that we could potentially experiment with Mfuni and play him in a central defensive midfield role. I think he's got the player type to do it, and I think it'll be a really interesting new dynamic for us if we go and try something like that. And I'm sure City will be very grateful to us if it turns out, oh yes, he's a very, very good he's a very, very good CDM as well as a centre back and a left back, which you need versatility as a young player in order to get to that top level. Like Nico O'Reilly recently with Man City, he can play left back, but he can also play in the midfield as a CDM, but he can also play as a 10. Versatility, and that's what you need in the modern game, and I think we can get that a lot with Stefan Mfuni. Moving on then to our next topic of the evening, and the question is, could pushing a fullback into the midfield when the opposition are breaking be an answer to some of our midfield struggles? Now, for me, potentially, when we're on the break, put Ngakia or Mfuni into the midfield to give us that bit more security in the midfield. But if we lose it, we need to be so confident that they're going to be able to get back to their side and defend it. But we have to be very careful if we want to do it. But I definitely think it's an option that can be explored because, let's face it, the Championship, you want to experiment this sort of things because the Championship is a very experimental league. I definitely think it can be something we can go for. Liam, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, for me, I like the idea of it. We've seen it at Manchester City with Nico O'Reilly shifted into the midfield at times and from the left back position. I do think if it was a player to do it, Caden, you've mentioned it, Stefan Mfuni, I would be my ideal player to do it. However, again, it leaves space on the wing, so getting someone to cover that position if he goes into the midfield, maybe the left winger or a centre back coming a bit out wide. And then again, if he loses the ball or gets sent to the shops pretty much, then he goes back to cover his position on the wing, the right side if he's playing left back, or same for Ngakia if he was to do it on the left hand side for their attack. Again, I wouldn't try it tomorrow against Ipswich. I do think I'm in the middle. It's something that I like the idea of, but then does it work? Possibly not for us. I don't think it would work for us. So for me, I'd have to say no on this occasion, but I do see where you're coming from.
As I said, I think that we're lucky that we're in such an experimental league. And I think that doing that will give us an extra number in the midfield. And I'm going to say it again, especially if Kayembe's in the midfield, because we effectively already lose a man when Kayembe's in the midfield because he's useless. So I think putting a fullback into the midfield when we're breaking can kind of solve that issues, especially when the opposition turn it over. That I'm confident that, especially Mfuni, can get back round to left back and be set for the winger to come at him. So I think it could be really, really quite interesting. Harry, what are your thoughts on this?
It's interesting. It manages to work for Enzo Maresca and Pep Guardiola, but do you think it would work at Watford? I'm not so sure. I don't think, honestly, it's this time of the season to start testing out these new tactics, inverted fullbacks or anything like that. We've got 13 games to go. We need to win them. Maybe if it was first 5 games in the season, we could try it out, but I don't think it's something we will do. Again, as I mentioned with my predicted lineups, I would start Mark Bowler at the left mid position. So if Mfuni was to become that inverted fullback, Ebola could drop back for him really quickly if it manages to become a problem, but I don't think it will happen. There's a reason why we're not football managers and Ed still is, and I feel like I trust him based off the last 2 games to figure out what's best for us to get a good result against Ipswich.
Well, yeah, a good result against Ipswich would be brilliant for us. I just don't know if I actually see it happening. Moving on then to our next topic. We're going to skip a couple of topics and we're going to go to our main topic of the evening. Ed Still and his opening games and Ed Still's attitudes towards the press. Liam, what have you thought of Ed Still's opening fixtures? Obviously, he's got 4 points from 6 now. Do you think we found our man?
Well, it's tough to say when you're managing Watford, to be honest. You've got no security in the job. But no, I do think Preston game, first half, we were absolutely rubbish, to be quite honest. Second half, we were completely a different team. We came out, we attacked, we defended well, apart from letting Osmajic in to score that goal. But yeah, again, Derby, Saturday, defensively compact, played to his style, low block, transition, quick transition on the ball, attacked to defence to attack. They were all brilliant, and Fooney was at the heart of that. And yeah, I do think that Ed Still has had a good game. In terms of attitude to the media, then, he's not afraid to say, oh, well, people have never heard of me, so people are, all right to be judgmental. Like, he's not afraid to let that known. He knows how tough this Watford job is, and he's clear to the media that he knows how tough the job of it he is, and he wants to do a good job. And for me, he came out of nowhere. Obviously, we know him because he's the brother of Will, so that's probably part of the reason I knew him. But the point is, Robbo came out of nowhere. So, not Robbo, sorry. He came out of nowhere, and yeah, a manager can come out of nowhere and do well. Look at Cisco Munoz, for example. We would never have heard of him, and he did a really good job at Watford getting us promoted. And I do think he shouldn't have been sacked when he was sacked in the Premier League because we were doing really well. But yeah, I think he's had a good 2 games. Can I get behind him? Not really, because if we start going on a losing run, given our fixtures, Ipswich today, Bristol, then Sheffield Wednesday, which we should win, then Stoke, and then Wrexham. So again, those are really tough games, and those could be defining for him because, Potts likes to pull the trigger. So again, I can't get behind him, but I do think that he's done a good job. And if he keeps it going, playoffs are maybe on the cards.
Well, I think that's very optimistic of you, Liam. But you're normally fairly optimistic anyway, whereas I'm Mr. Pessimist. Really, really impressive start for Ed Still, I think. It was a difficult ask to go to Preston away and get 3 points because of the players that they have got. They have got Osmajic and Jebison, who always score against us. Thankfully, Jebison had such an awful game and was brought off. But we didn't stop Osmajic, did we? We just didn't. And some of their players are really, really good. Apart from Osmajic, and unfortunately, I have to give some kudos to Jebison for the goals he scored this season for Preston. And they've got Ben Whiteman in midfield. I'm really, really impressed with Ben Whiteman. Always, every time I watch him, he's always brilliant. He'd never come to Watford, and I wouldn't necessarily want him, to be fair. But he is a very good Championship player. Liam, before I move on to ask Harry and George their thoughts on this, have you been impressed by the way that Ed Still has conducted himself to the media in his opening weeks, considering he's not necessarily used to the English press?
Yeah, I touched upon it again. I think he's not afraid to hide the fact that Watford's a tough job. I think he says it how he means it, and he's not afraid to comment on the players' attitudes. Like, as we saw, he said there was a bit of moaning in his first press conference when he said that from the players. So he's not afraid to call out the players and say, you know what, you need to do better here. And he's not afraid. So me, I like that from a manager. Like Tom Cleverley, he wasn't afraid to say stuff to the media. He was fine. Obviously, he'd been in England for longer, but again, still, I praise him for that because he's not afraid to make the wrong decision and say something stupid. He says it how he means it, and he says it in a way that's not bad, but he says it in a way that's sort of supportive and maybe advising the players to improve or advising things to improve. So yeah, I do like the way he conducts himself, and I do think he speaks very well. And given that he speaks in different languages, that definitely helps the squad. Definitely, given our French connections and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I can really praise Ed on, away from the football, is the fact that he can speak multiple languages. A lot of our squad can speak French, which, is fantastic. So can Ed. So if some of the players aren't necessarily understanding the English, translate it into French straight away. The same thing is brought across. It works. It works well. So that's what I can really praise him for. Harry, what have you thought of Ed Still in his opening fixtures? 4 points from 6. And have you been impressed by the way that Ed has conducted himself to the media in his first weeks as Watford head coach?
It's a points business, and so far he's got 2 points per game. And if we do that for the rest of the season, we get playoffs. We get 73 points. And I'm glad that we chose someone who has a bit of inexperience because clubs may not know what to get from him. And in our past, our best managers have those who have less experience. Look, Graham Taylor was 32 when he came to the job. Adi Boothroyd, 35. Those are 2 of our best managers in our history. Cisco Munoz, as Liam mentioned, he was more of a cheerleader than a manager, but he managed to get Watford promotion, even though he had a very, very good team. And I'm glad that even though he's a really nice person, he also seems to be a very good football manager. He gives me a bit of Rob Edwards vibes when he speaks, and I would say that's a positive, as he was a very outspoken and well-spoken person. And I'm glad that we have him for the rest of the season, hopefully for the next couple of seasons. But again, it's very, very early, and I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket just yet. And let's see how, for the remaining 13 games, not couple games, how he fares his share.
Yeah, well, I mean, the game against Derby was his first win in over 1,000 days. So if he can kind of turn his tide around as a manager, and become a manager who is perfect for the Championship, I'm all for that. If Ed's a fantastic manager for us, gets us in and around the playoffs, you keep him into next season, then maybe under his tactics. So I don't know if what we're playing is fully his tactics. I think it's more Charlie Daniels and Dan Gosling, because I think that Ed is more of a 3-4-3 kind of manager, like his brother. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but I think that he'll get the rest of this season, hopefully into next season, as long as things don't go pear-shaped, and then we can actually adopt his system and then go on a playoff push, which is the ultimate hope. George, what are your thoughts on Ed Still's opening games, and have you been impressed by the way that he has conducted himself to the media?
Well, in these last 2 games under Edward Still, I thought we have been outstanding, to be totally honest with you. Like, in that first half against Preston, we were a bit iffy, and it was just not nice football at all. But after that, the past 1.5 matches, we've been at our best at the best of our game. Like, we've been really attacking, and we're showing passion to go and win it. It's like the players actually want to play for the manager, and that's what we love to see at this point. And Caden, I think things will go pear-shaped. I hope it's not, but we're at Watford FC, so course it will. But I think Ed still has conducted himself quite well in the media, as he hasn't been scared to shame the players due to attitude in the training ground, which I think is exactly what you need from a manager. Like no like dancing around it. Like just say it, so then it's all out there, and the players know they have to change it soon enough.
Yeah, well, I think it's about time we have a manager who, if a player's poor, he'll tell them, "You're poor. You are awful. You won't play." That's what we need. We need a manager who is very, very harsh. We don't need a total disciplinarian like Paulo or Happy Man. Doesn't see much wrong having. But a perfect mix between a disciplinarian and a good man that will put an arm around the young players. Perfect. But ultimately, they need to know, if you're rubbish, you're not going to play, or you will be dropped. And he should have no qualms about doing that. And if the Pozzos are telling him to start specific players, which has been rumoured within our fan base, especially with our links to Mogi Bayat, but he needs to stamp that out and say, look, he's rubbish, he's not playing. He needs to stamp that out. Otherwise, we can't have success as Watford Football Club. And I can't have that. And nor do any other Watford fan want that. Because that is not a good place to be. Well, thank you for joining us this evening on the Hornet Talk podcast. This is pre-record episode 1, so I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you, as always, to my fantastic co-hosting team, Liam Brenton, George Fakish, and Harry Phillips. You'll be seeing these episodes every Tuesday, and keep an eye out on our social pages for the timings of the releases. But as you can see on screen for those on YouTube, we will be starting up the Hornet Talk podcast unfiltered this week, this Thursday at 8 p.m. Your voice, your passion, your thoughts. So you'll be able to join us live from the off, no rambling, straight into some brilliant talk and debate about Watford FC. So be sure to join us and send those requests in, because we are about ready to go. Thank you again, as always, for joining us. We will be back next week. Have a fantastic match day against Ipswich Town, and let's hope that we can get a massive 3 points to aid us into that playoff push. Thank you, as always. Good night. You Horns.